In today's video, I want to go over a couple of huge PlayStation 5 games that are rumored to be in development. Specifically, Guerrilla Games' hirings may point towards Horizon Zero Dawn 2 being in development. I think this is something many of us had speculated on, but I do want to talk a little bit about that. And also, for you VR guys out there, the Astro dev team is working on PS5 demos as well. That could very well become something like the Playroom 2. That was onboard software that was packaged with PlayStation VR, and we could see that with the PS5. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, From Software's Hidetaka Miyazaki reiterates that Bloodborne 2 isn't his decision to make, and that is something that Sony will have to decide on. We'll talk about that. However, first up, I think everybody is expecting that at some point we are going to get a follow-up to Horizon Zero Dawn with Horizon Zero Dawn 2 on the PlayStation 5. However, a sequel to Aloy's adventure has pretty much always been a given, but if you look at Guerrilla Games, the studio that developed Horizon Zero Dawn and Killzone in the past, it is currently advertising some 16 or so positions on their official LinkedIn profile. Though you could argue these positions just might relate to any project they're working on, some of the indications do give us a giveaway that it's probably Horizon Zero Dawn 2. Specifically, they're looking to hire a senior vegetation artist, and there's obviously a lot of wildlife in Horizon Zero Dawn, so that goes really hand in hand. And a couple of the other listings also seemingly point towards Horizon Zero Dawn 2. What other game can they really be working on? Really, it comes down to two things. They're working on a new Killzone, or they're working on a new Horizon title, and I'm inclined to believe that they're working on both, to be perfectly honest. We do know that Guerrilla Games is expanding. I think the launch title for the PlayStation 5 should be Horizon Zero Dawn 2, and let me explain why. I don't know if you guys are aware, but Horizon Zero Dawn was actually a massive game. I was looking at sales numbers the other days, and Horizon Zero Dawn, as far as commercially goes, was one of the best-selling PS4 exclusives that have been released. It's outpaced by Spider-Man and God of War, I believe, but it is right up there, and that is so surprising to me, given that it's a brand new IP, and given that it is such a out-of-nowhere IP that I would not have expected to caught fire like it did. Yes, it's Guerrilla Games, but prior to that, Guerrilla Games did Killzone Shadowfall, and it's not like that was a standout game. That wasn't the biggest noteworthy title that I could think of. However, they followed that up with something so unique with Horizon Zero Dawn, and obviously they delivered something incredibly compelling that game just caught fire, and it sold very well. Critically, it was received rather well as well, so I think that there is this fandom that's there for Horizon Zero Dawn, even though it might not be apparent. Maybe I'm just living under a rock and I don't notice that Horizon Zero Dawn has become this notable IP and Sony has something really major in their hands, and Aloy is a very notable and recognizable character. Whatever the case may be, Horizon Zero Dawn 2 or Horizon 2, I think it would be kind of weird if you tack on that Zero Dawn label to the game again, but whatever the case may be, Horizon 2 on the PlayStation 5 I do think is going to be a major release, and I've always been of the standpoint that if come the PS5's launch that we could get two major exclusives in Horizon Zero Dawn 2, and there's also rumblings that Bluepoint Games is working on a remake, and there's rumors that that's a Demon's Souls remake. If we could get those two games as the PS5 launch title, round that out with some third-party stuff, and I am golden. That is good for me, comparatively speaking to the PS4's launch, where we got freaking Killzone Shadowfall that wasn't that great, and freaking Knack. I'm good on Horizon 2 and a Demon's Souls remake. I would be all over that as a launch lineup, alongside a bunch of other third-party stuff, of course. But I really think that's what Sony should be aiming for, and given that Horizon Zero Dawn at this point did release all the way back in 2017, by the time the PlayStation 5 would be released, it would be 3.5 years since its release. The timeline works out perfectly. If you look at Sony Santa Monica, I don't think Santa Monica is going to have another God of War ready by the time of the PS5's launch. They might, and if they could get a new God of War out for the PS5's launch, that would be absolutely insane. But 2.5 years seems a little bit of a quick turnaround. I would say that would probably be a 2021 title. Ghost of Tsushima is another game I could see being a PS5 launch title and it being a cross-generation game. And then you have other studios like Naughty Dog. I'm sure that they've got something in the pipeline for the PS5 in the background, but of course they're working on The Last of Us Part 2. And then you look at an Insomniac, they're definitely busy with a Spider-Man 2, however that's probably a long ways out. We're probably gonna have to wait a little bit for that. So I would imagine the PS5's launch titles would be that Guerrilla Games title. Hopefully we could get that Bluepoint Games title, and then maybe a Ghost of Tsushima cross-generation release. I think that is perfectly acceptable from a first-party lineup for those three to be major game releases, and then maybe you can round it out with some smaller downloadable games like we had with the PS4 and Resogun. That's just my 2 cents. But there you have it with that. Also, moving on from that, Astrobot's development team is working on some PlayStation 5 demos, and these could very well become the Playroom Doom 2 for VR2. Japan Studios' Asabo team made one of PSVR's best titles in Astro Rescue Mission. That game was fantastic, but they also did PlayStation 4's built-in software package, The Playroom. That was designed as a social augmented reality experience. Every console shipped with the game pre-installed, meaning everyone had something to play immediately. It makes use of the DualShock 4's new features like the touchpad and the light bar, acting as an early introduction to everything the PS4 had to offer. And it looks like they're working on some sort of demo for the PlayStation 5, whether it be an in-house demo, whatever the case may be. While discussing the new controller's haptic feedback that is for the DualShock 5, Peter Rubin writes about a series of short demos courtesy of the same Japan studio team that designed PlayStation VR's Astro Rescue Mission. He talked about having a character run through a series of different surfaces, all providing unique sensations through the controller's new rumble tech. It's very possible that this is something that is related to some sort of demo on the PlayStation 5. That's speculation. However, take it for what you will, and I did want to keep you guys noted on that. Also, we talked a little bit about the possibility of a Demon's Souls remake. Well, something that a lot of gamers want to see that's From Software related is a follow-up to Bloodborne and Bloodborne 2. I thought that was something that would be an absolute home run and an obvious thing to do some point this generation, just because Bloodborne 1 was really the first marquee PlayStation 4 exclusive that was a critical hit as well. There were games like Infamous Second Son and a couple of other titles prior to that, maybe an Until Dawn you could say was pretty good, but they weren't at the level of a Bloodborne. Bloodborne is absolutely incredible, and it sold a lot of people on the PlayStation 4. And in a new interview with GameStop Brazil, Miyazaki was asked if there was anything he'd like to change about Bloodborne all these years later. While admitting he doesn't like to reflect on games too much after they release, Miyazaki did say he would like to have changed some things with Chalice Dungeons and Blood Gems in Bloodborne. It was suggested that Miyazaki could eventually make these changes in Bloodborne 2. Laughing, Miyazaki responded saying via translation, "Bloodborne 2, unfortunately, I'm not the one to decide." Now, what is he noting that he's not the one to decide on Bloodborne 2? Well, Bloodborne 2 is actually in Sony's hand right now. It's not as simple as From Software snapping their fingers and deciding to start developing the game. Even though From Software made the original game, Sony is the one who owns the IP to the title. That means in order to make a sequel, Sony would have to be the one to set things in motion. I'm kind of surprised as to why they haven't set things in motion. Maybe they're just letting it sleep for a little bit and it's something that they want to bring back with the PlayStation 5, but obviously at this point, From Software is incredibly busy with a lot of other titles. They brought out Sekiro earlier this year, and they're working on Elden Ring now. They've got a significantly large team, and they can have multiple games in production, but I would imagine that they have other games in development outside of Elden Ring. And Miyazaki is helming that project, and I doubt he would be able to helm two projects at the same time, major projects like that. After Elden Ring comes out, that would be a different story. However, at this point, Bloodborne 2 is probably not going to happen anytime soon, and if it does happen, it would be deep into next generation. And I would imagine not hearing anything about that until 2021, 2022. It's a bummer, but it's not like From Software have been dormant and not offering quality, challenging, action-oriented experiences. They're still giving you Sekiro. They're gonna give you Elden Ring. We got Dark Souls 3. From Software has been one of the busiest developers in all of gaming this generation. A lot of developers are struggling to put out, one or two games a generation just because how difficult games have become to develop and what the expectations are. Well, you look at From Software this generation alone, they put out Bloodborne, they put out Dark Souls 3, they put out Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and they're gonna put out Elden Ring. Their first three games have been home run slam dunks, and Elden Ring is shaping up to be a major title as well. What other studio has put out 4 massive games in a single generation? Naughty Dog put out 2 games with Uncharted 4 and then The Last of Us Part 2 coming out. They also put out Uncharted Lost Legacy, but that was more of an add-on to the Uncharted 4 experience. Sony Santa Monica only put out 1 game. Insomniac only put out 2 or 3 games. I believe it was 3 if you count Sunset Overdrive. They did Spider-Man, and they might have done something smaller in between that. My memory's a little bit foggy, but yeah, doing 4 major titles like From Software has done in a single generation, that's absolutely staggering, especially in the generation now where it's so much more time consuming to get these games out. You look again at the Sony first party studios. At this point, Sucker Punch has only put out 1 game this generation, and Infamous Second Son, Ghost of Tsushima still in development, and that could end up transitioning into a cross-gen title. So it's very impressive what From Software has managed this generation. Hopefully at some point we do see Bloodborne 2, because I think there's a lot of mileage in that IP. And that's going to conclude this video. Again, based on hirings, it looks like Guerrilla Games is in fact working on Horizon Zero Dawn 2. I really can't imagine what other game they could be working on that requires a senior vegetation artist. Astrobot dev team is working on some PS5 demos, could be translated into something in the PS5 as far as a demo is concerned. And Bloodborne 2, as far as that's concerned, that is all up to Sony, and hopefully at some point they do make it come to fruition on the PS5. It would be incredible, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to let it sleep a little bit, given that From Software is already busy at work on a ton of other games. That's gonna conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.